Yeah, so welcome to Crypto Conversation. We'll be talking about Lumos Labs, and also I'm interested in knowing everything else that you've built. So हम लोग हिंदी और इंग्लिश मिक्स करेंगे साथ में. So I think एक हम लोग intro से start करते हैं काव्या. For anyone who doesn't know you, would you give us a small intro from like your previous pre-crypto and then how did you get introduced to crypto and journey so far?
For sure. And thanks for having me here, Shiv. Really appreciate it. So my journey started as an architect, actually. So I am an architect by degree. I worked as an architect for about a year, after which I realized it wasn't my cup of tea. And, studying architecture and actually being an architect and working were two very different things. And you really don't get to build those, crazy sort of architecture buildings that you did in college in real life, and things got pretty like monotonous for me. So I wanted to move into something that gave me more creative freedom. So that's when I got into graphic design, started building a portfolio, learning the tools that it takes to get into graphic designing, and started essentially working at a startup as a graphic designer, after which I transitioned into UI UX and then into product. So that was my career journey, and I worked in about 3 or 4 startups at the time. Some of them failed, some of them still exist, but they were really small companies. So I've mostly had my career in startups, right? After which my husband and I got married, and I decided to quit my job, and we got a little dog. So I decided to take care of the dog for a bit, and then started freelancing, and that's how I got into freelancing. And my journey into blockchain and Web3 was very serendipitous. In fact, I got into this ecosystem before the Web3 term was coined, which is pretty OG, I would say. So back in 2016 is when I started freelancing as a designer in a lot of companies, helping with community building on social media, mostly online community building for several Web2 companies. At the time, there was one Web3 company, more like a Web3 publication called itsblockchain.com, that approached me, and this was sort of a partnership between me and my husband. We started together. He was a marketer, I was a designer, and we kind of worked really well together. So we kind of took on that project where I was helping with the product and design, while he was helping with content and marketing for that publication. We did that for about 8 to 9 months, after which he started introducing us to different blockchain companies at the time. This was during the ICO boom, and we started getting paid in Bitcoin, and there was no turning back from there. So things went on for some time, where we were freelancing with several ICO companies, consulting with them, helping them in building communities of retail investors that could essentially come on board for an ICO product, all the way up to PR, marketing, and listing partnerships for that particular token company, right? So that happened for a little while. While the ICO had like a boom moment, there was also a bust, right? When that bust happened, we came to a point where we decided to understand where our interest lied within this ecosystem, right? And it went down to both of us very unanimously picking the technology. It was about the innovation, it was about the technology. For us, it was about the community and decentralization. So with that in mind, we decided to help this blockchain movement, which is essentially a tech movement, get more developers into the ecosystem. We realized that was a big problem, and this was something that happened with every emerging technology. When we had, when AI was new, when IoT was new, there were always scarcity of devs, and that's a problem that we wanted to solve. So we essentially got into developer acquisition and running developer programs for several blockchain companies. So during our stint with ICOs, we got introduced to a lot of companies back in the day. In fact, new Matic, before it was called Polygon, and we they're good friends of ours, and we work with them pretty closely even now. And with that, we started working with layer 1s, layer 2s, and platform companies that were looking for tech adoption and connecting developers to Web3 opportunities through that. So while each platform company has its own USP, right? Some of them are distributing compute, some of them are building a layer 2 scalable solution. What they always wanted was developers. And what we provided were services that essentially got developers interested in the technology. So these services or programs per se are anything from, an accelerator program to a hackathon to an education program that we ran in colleges. So that's what we did for the last 4 years. While the beginning of 2022, we came to a crossroads as a service business. readiness where we wanted to get to the next level. We built a good community of developers of about 60K people. They're all very interested in blockchain. We wanted to see how we could scale this globally because predominantly our community is in India. So while we were doing this, there were a couple of interesting problem statements that we faced that we wanted to solve through the company and a product. So that's how we decided to build a metaverse for developers. And I can probably get into details about why this metaverse and everything, but this is essentially my journey up till now.
Sure. So what was the community called, like dev community that you started building back 4 years ago?
So this is a community that came through the programs that we did. So we've done about 40 odd programs, everything from, accelerators to hackathons. So the community is our community. So we call them, Lumos' community. So there is no name. Currently, we are now rebuilding this community and getting the most interested of the lot into, the metaverse as well that we're building. So the community is, our own, basically.
Yeah. So you started basically your intro to crypto was It's Blockchain, which was by Hitesh Malviya, I guess.
Yes.
And then you realize that there's so much potential with blockchain itself, and how can I contribute more, add more, and do more? And that's how you started building dev. You started running hackathon, and you were able to build a large community of dev. And then that's how, I guess, Lumos Labs was born. Before we go to Lumos Lab, what are the other products that you are a part of right now under you? Like what are the other products you've built which are running currently?
Currently, it's only Lumos Labs exclusively. My co-founder Raghu, who is also my husband, so we both started Lumos together. But while we were running these hackathons and accelerator programs, we started seeing a lot of these small projects, right, that developers built, wanting to take that to the next level, wanting to make that into a startup. So we always wanted to do something to potentially help startups get to the next level as well. Again, this is a very nascent technology with a lot of startups, and there isn't enough support out there, right? So we wanted to provide support to them. But while we started doing that, we weren't able to do justice under the same brand, because what we were solving for developers is its own big problem, and what we want to solve for startups is its own problem. So with that, Raghu, being a startup guy at heart, he's from your story, writing about startups, was a journalist. He found that problem, and he's more passionate about that problem. So we kind of went on to spinning off another company called Builders Tribe that Pareen and Raghu are running right now, that they handle end to end. So that is something that I'm involved with in terms of partnerships, helping, with deal flow in terms of, startups coming through our programs, handing it over to them so they can take it to the next level. But for me, my entire, focus is on Lumos Labs and growing the metaverse.
Wonderful. So I think let's talk about Lumos Labs. So what is Lumos Labs in a very plain and simple terms?
Right. So Lumos Labs for 4 years, from 2018 till 2022, was an innovation management company. We were service-based. But from 2022, we recently raised funds for a product. And we are now building a gateway to Web3 for developers through the form of a metaverse. So the platform is a metaverse, but it's more like a marketplace or an ecosystem for people to enter Web3 on a technology front. So that's essentially, in a nutshell, what Lumos Labs is building.
So I was going through the web, and it says that it's the metaverse for the dev, right? Can you explain, so what is it there? So for any dev listening out there, do you run training programs? So let's say there's a dev in Web 2 and he wants to onboard Web 3, or maybe there's somebody who has no clue about dev and he wants to get into building Web 3, right? Maybe he's a fresher. Do you guys run training programs, and how does this whole Lumos Labs metaverse works?
Yeah, happy to answer that. I'm glad you asked that question. So there were a couple of challenges that we saw in the ecosystem in the last 4 years, right? As we were doing more and more dev programs, just listing them out here. One, as I already mentioned, scarcity of devs. So how do we get more developers in blockchain technology? And they don't necessarily have to be smart contract developers or blockchain developers. I'm talking about front end, back end, but everybody needs to understand the basics of blockchain. So how do we play a part in increasing that top of the funnel of developers in the ecosystem, right? Second thing is opportunities in the space are immense. every chain, every blockchain company has numerous number of developer engagement programs, but discovery of that is very hard. It's very scattered. They're all in several different, Discord servers, different websites. There is no aggregation play and a discovery play for developers to be able to find these opportunities in an easier way. The third one is developer identities itself. Currently, identities are again very fragmented and they're distributed across several platforms. There's LinkedIn, where their career journeys are. There's GitHub, where they put out their repositories and their pet projects. There's Gitcoin, DevPost, DevFolio, where their bounty personalities, their hackathon winnings, all of that is laid out. Stack Overflow, where they support other developers in terms of like knowledge sharing, etc. Now, how about we build this one developer identity, which is on chain, which is private and owned by the developer itself, that they can share to find better collaboration opportunities, better job opportunities. Honestly, it just eases out in terms of identities itself for developers in a very seamless manner, right? So that is something that we saw was a big problem as well. Fourth one is hiring. Recruitment, I think, is one of the biggest problems in blockchain, where and especially tech recruitment, where every organization is putting, at least 5 or 6 developer opportunities out there, but there aren't enough people trained and ready to actually take on those jobs, right? Or you're not able to discover the right talent again. So these are a couple of problems that we saw in the ecosystem, and we wanted to essentially help the developers find better opportunities and help the companies with developer relations in general in a seamless way through one platform. With that being said, the metaverse itself is something that kind of on the developer's end or the user end is catering to the entire user's journey. Everything from learning. So we'll have a learning hub where we essentially partner with every learning platform out there, right? We have so many good platforms out there. There's Build Space, there's Web3 University, Learn Web3 DAO. All of these guys are doing great content work, helping more developers come into this technology. So how about we build a hub where developers can discover the best sort of learning opportunity for them, and the form factor also changes. Everyone has a different style of learning, right? Some people like async learning, some people like live sessions. We want to give them that leeway of deciding and giving the power to the developers. Secondly, collaboration. Right now you don't know who to approach because some people don't truly say what they are on their resume, and you can really manipulate your resume. With an on-chain resume, you can actually target the right kind of person to talk to and collaborate with. You can find a tech team, you can find your tech co-founder. All of this can happen in the metaverse. And thirdly, finding opportunities. So every blockchain out there has grants, has open bounties, has hackathons, and any sort of developer program. But again, discoveries are very hard across different chains, and you have to be ingrained into multiple ecosystems. That becomes very heavy on you to actually scout for this. So we want to make that scouting easier so you can connect the developers to opportunities. Now on the business end, what we're doing essentially is giving businesses or Web3 companies access to the pool of developers that we are essentially bringing onto the platform, and building a shared community of technologists who can contribute, be hired, and collaborate with each chain. And most developers, I wouldn't say all of them, there are always exceptions, are very chain agnostic, and it's more about the innovation for them, and they kind of go towards what's interesting to them. So they are not essentially exclusive to a chain, but rather want to contribute to them all. Right. So this way, with a platform like this becomes very neutral for them to decide what to build on or which chain to collaborate with. And for chains, it just becomes easier to find the right kind of talent when they need it.
So for a Web3, let's say there's a Web3 company who's trying to build something, and you said that you provide the pool of the tech. So how does he approach, and like, what's the revenue model like? Is there going to be any token economy within the metaverse that they need to have to access to this pool of dev, or even in terms of devs, like how so how does the economy work? If you could explain also the revenue model for Lumos Labs.
For sure. So with businesses, and the revenue model is purely on the business end, it's always going to be free for developers, and that's how we would like to keep it, giving the power to the devs. For businesses, the revenue model is very simple. It's basically land sales, like how a Decentralised or a Sandbox works. So they essentially buy a parcel of land, set up a virtual headquarters there, put out all the developer-centric opportunities in the headquarters in a visual manner, and we have a dashboard for the businesses to be able to access, remove, add opportunities as they please, and also get a lot of analytics on what's happening within that particular building. How many people want to follow that particular chain? How many people enter that building? What's the footfall like? What do they click on? What has the most number of interest in terms of developer opportunities? That would be the predominant revenue model. That apart, there are a lot of in metaverse sales that you can do. Say there is a hackathon that they want to promote across the developer pool that we have. They can put up a virtual billboard. They can put out push notifications. They can put out email notifications that we can send out to the community that we're building out, and so on. So the number of in metaverse opportunities or revenue models are immense. You can run a workshop, you can run a job fair, a tech conference, everything virtually in the metaverse, and we're giving them features and tools to essentially enable that and make that happen. So that is basically a revenue model. In terms of the token economy, we are looking at having our own token economy within the world, but it's a little far away, and that's something that I think we can take up when the time comes. But essentially, we want to decentralize the world through the token. So in a way, peg the token to the land in the metaverse. So everybody holds the token. So if the developers are incentivized with the token, they have a fraction of the land in the metaverse that they own through the token. So this way, we want to decentralize the world and have a governance structure that this amount of Lumos tokens will essentially give you, voting power to take the next steps in the metaverse about, what you want to do with it, right? Do you want to have an IDE in the metaverse? Do you want to increase the number of parcels in the metaverse? Where does the metaverse go further? And we become a part of the network at that point, and we want to kind of not take autonomous decisions in, say, the next 5 years. We want to decentralize it within the next 5 years.
So right now, so you mentioned a couple of things here. So one you mentioned is the land, right, within the metaverse that the company would have to own, and then they can start building. Is there a land sale happening soon?
So this would be on a case-by-case basis, depending on which companies are interested. So this is not going to be an open land sale for everybody. This is only going to be for Web3 businesses in V1. But once we go further, we do want to open up land sales for whoever wants to buy land and set up, say, any sort of developer-centric, building there. A Tinker Lab, developer communities can essentially set up buildings. Tech clubs and colleges can set up buildings and meet virtually there, etc. But as of now, it's going to be closed off to only Web3 businesses.
And how does the dev get incentivized?
So we are building a build-to-earn economy, like a play-to-earn economy, right? So essentially, any developer that builds something, earns something in the metaverse through points in the beginning and eventually through Lumos tokens.
Is it? So have you also thought that a company building within Lumos Labs, they would also be able to reward these devs in their own tokens?
100%. That essentially why we want to have our own token economy in the world, where we want to incentivize them to build more, to get into the ecosystem more, and have that drive to actually get to the next level. And we want to gamify their existence, where every upskill that they do, they get points in return because they have skilled up and gotten to a level where they are potentially a better hire or potentially a better engineer at the end of the day.
So you're referring to the rewards through the Lumos tokens, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What if the company which is building up, let's say there's a Uniswap coming up to build a new Uniswap on some XYZ blockchain, and they want to reward devs. So have you
got it? Yes, we've thought about that as well. So initially, most of the programs that we lay out in the metaverse is going to be hosted somewhere else, right? So when they do apply for the program, this purely becomes a place of discovery for them, and they will be rewarded directly from that organization. But going forward, once we implement blockchain into the product, we're looking at an interoperable layer that essentially connects through bridges to different chains. So the token also can be dispersed through the bridge through wrap token technology, where you can have a native token sent into the Lumos wallets that the developers would hold in the product itself.
Right. So, well, essentially, the way I look at it is basically like it's rightly mentioned, it's the metaverse for builders and devs and like everything in one place, right?
That's right.
Very cool. So now I'm looking at the website and it says that Builders Gateway to Web3 is coming soon. Like, what are the next immediate plans, or what will go live from here? What is your roadmap from here? And
Right.
the reason I'm asking, so that people can be ready for the next step of yours and they can hopefully participate if they're interested.
100%. So our next step, first thing is to launch our website, and it should be out in the next 2 weeks. We're already working on it with, a detailed roadmap. But just to give you like a tentative roadmap in the meantime, we're looking at launching the V1 of the product in the end of November, beginning of December, wherein we're building a whitelist in the backend before that, where we want a focus group of developers actually using the V1 of the product, figuring out any sort of gaps, bugs that we can probably test and fix in V1, and launch the V2 probably mid next year, so Q2 next year. In the meantime, we are also running several initiatives that are developer centric while we are building the product in parallel. One is a hackathon that we're launching mid this month that we are looking at a global audience for. And this, again, we are looking at, a chain agnostic sort of hackathon where we have multiple chains sort of coming in, where developers choose which chain to build on, as opposed to, having to build on just one chain. The second thing is an education platform where we are essentially helping Web2 devs get into Web3. So a course that has everything from what is blockchain all the way up to, deploying your first Solidity smart contract, which gets them, into blockchain as, a first step, and then over and above which they will have to essentially, get into the ecosystem and learn more. And the third is a recruitment angle where we are building a candidate pool of, developers that are interested in finding a full-time job in Web3. And with Web3 businesses, finding out, what opportunities they have and seeing if we can mix and match and, connect the right people for the right job opportunity, and taking it, up a notch, essentially. So these are 3 initiatives that we're launching in this quarter as a precursor to the launch of the Metaverse.
So all these are coming in the V1, or?
These are actually before V1. So the
Before
hackathon
V1.
is due to launch on the 16th of August, and the education platform, in fact, next week, and the recruitment one as well next week. So all of this is happening.
What would V1 have?
V1 would be a place where a developer can essentially build a profile, put in all his details, his or her details as a developer, their journeys, what sort of achievements they've had, etc. Be able to explore opportunities in a 3D way, and also interact with other developers and add them as friends and chat with them. On the business end, there'll be access to a dashboard where businesses can essentially set up their headquarters, put in opportunities that developers would be interested in, and be able to see basic analytics on, what the footfall looks like and what the interactions look like within a building.
And the training programs, like from Web2, are these? Have you thought of like having training programs which are cohort based, like a group learning sort of thing, or is it like pre-recorded?
No. Yeah, so mostly they're async and they're not recordings either. It's more, Gitbook like formats where we have instructions. We do want to add videos to kind of work with these instructions. So, if someone prefers to watch videos, they can do that. Nothing live yet, because I do think that there are a lot of people doing that already out there, and, they're skilled to do that. So we want to sort of partner with people who are doing that as opposed to building our own content. But what we want to help in is actually getting Web2 devs into Web3. Because from there on, there is a lot of content for Web3, how to start with Solana, how to start with Polygon, all of that already exists. So we want to actually work with people who do this better than actually, doing it ourselves.
And Lumos Labs itself will be built on some, like, what is it built on?
So currently the V1 is predominantly going to be centralized, and we are looking at decentralizing it in V2. So the only use of blockchain would be, distribution of NFTs that we want to do for the achievements and rewards that the developers get. So as of now, we haven't really decided on a chain to build on yet, but we are looking at an interoperable layer that essentially connects to a chain. So like a Axelar, a Celestia, maybe building a parachain, or a, using Cosmos to, build our own chain and then take it to the next level. So that is the thought process we have currently. But that is, that problem we want to take once we have the V1 ready and have developers actually, exploring the world itself.
Right. So basically, so the V1 will have like some assets on the platform, which will be like sort of NFTs created on some chains and will be distributed to these devs, I guess. And also
we're looking at OpenSea APIs, honestly, and then hosting the NFTs there and, connecting the wallet. And also like if they want to connect to Metamask wallet, then, airdrop the NFTs there. But that's predominantly the blockchain angle to begin with. But right now we're more looking towards, what makes a 3D world more efficient when you are building a PWA. It needs to render quickly. It needs to be able to work on any sort of hardware and accessibility, because we don't want to reduce this product to just people who have, very solid hardware, but be able to use it on a mobile phone as well on the go. And that's what our predominant focus is in V1, where we are looking at, the best sort of engine to use and the best sort of optimization for the product. Once we've gotten that under the, hood, we essentially go to the next bit, which is decentralization, because you can't start decentralized from day one.
Absolutely not. All right. So I think I'm sure we can go on and on, but I think we will restrict to this under 40 minutes. So I guess what would you, so anyone who is watching, maybe a dev, non-dev, or maybe somebody who is planning to build something, what can they do right now with Lumos Labs? Like what action can they take?
So currently what a developer can do with Lumos Labs is join our community on Discord. We have many learning sessions and a lot of, fun sessions that kind of help you learn in a fun way as well, ongoing every day on our Discord. So if you're new to blockchain, you want to learn blockchain, come on to the Discord community and we will help you kind of dip your toes and understand this technology better, so you can hone your skills that you have as a techie to be able to contribute to this technology. That apart, we have a lot of, initiatives that I just mentioned. There's a recruitment platform. So if you're looking for a job, apply and we'll help you find a job. If you are looking at building something and want support and grants, join our hackathon. We have a lot of prizes that you can essentially take and actually make this into the next startup. And if you're already a startup, I can introduce you to Builders Tribe, because they can actually help you raise funds and get to the next level as well. So a lot of things a developer can do with us right now.
Right. And also like these job postings are all technical. I was wondering, like, since Web3 is such a huge space, what about the other categories of, because every product needs multiple, all of these,
of course.
Talents. Have you thought of that?
Yeah, of course. So we wanted to start with the technical problem because I see the biggest gap there.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean that we don't interact with non-technical people. So if there are opportunities that are, for designers, for content writers, we are open to, connecting people there as well. And we are open to building that candidate pool as well. And even the future of the product itself is going to be beyond developers. But we want to focus on one particular target audience because we want to get the product right for them. Once that's done, what's stopping us from building a product hub, a design hub, a community hub, and taking it to the next level?
True. So I think we have pretty much everything that we want to know about Lumos Labs. Anything else that you want to share before we wrap up that I haven't asked you, or anything that you're excited about in the Web3 space in general, apart from Solana hack?
Oh, that wasn't exciting, honestly. And that wasn't the only hack that happened yesterday. Even Covalent had a hack, which was a little scary. Yeah, it's very unfortunate. So I guess right now in the bear market, I would just say, put your head down and build, guys. Don't lose hope. There's always light at the end of the tunnel, and we'll, always get through this. So yeah, wag me. So we can do this.
Yeah, I think bear markets are so essential because I see too much noise in the bull market, and like everybody comes in and it just goes 10x, 100x, but there is no practical product. I mean, in a way, the industry's name gets spoiled. I think bear markets was everything gets corrected. So many people.
This is a good way of grounding us.
Yeah, right from 3 ACs and Celsius and whatnot. Thank you so much, Kaavya. It was wonderful. I'm looking forward to probably future conversations again. Thank you for
for sure.
doing this.
Yeah, likewise.